Hi guys and welcome to another vlog. This is the Hyundai Accent, the 5th generation model, also known as the Verna in India. Now why do I have this car with me? Well, it's actually a rental. I paid rupees 4,000 per day to rent this car out, and a lot of you are going to ask me, how do you actually go and rent a car abroad and how do you actually drive on your Indian license? So in this video, I'm going to be telling you the whole process of actually getting a license to drive abroad. So it's technically not called a license, it's known as an international driving permit. You basically need 5 things for it. First, of course, is obviously your driving license, which should be valid. Then you need a passport, and then you need a visa, because when you're going to apply for that license, that visa is going to be very important. After that, obviously you need that IDP, which is known as the international driving permit, and you also need a credit card, which is very important, without which you're not going to be able to rent a car. So first things first, you actually decided, okay, I'm planning to go to Dubai. So you have to get the visa of Dubai. Why? Because unless and until you have an active visa on your passport, you cannot apply for an IDP, which is basically international driving permit. I'm going to keep repeating that, I don't know why. And what I always do is, I actually take visa on arrival when I come to Dubai, because for me, that's more convenient because I don't stay more than 14 days. And if you have a US visa, then you can get visa on arrival and it costs a lot less. It costs around rupees 3,000, otherwise it costs around 6,000 rupees. But then obviously, you don't have to wait in line once you arrive at Dubai. You can straight away go through immigration. And also, if you don't have visa on arrival and you do a proper visa before, then you can stay for a longer duration as well. Now, since I'm having a visa on arrival, what visa should I show to the RTO when actually applying for an IDP? Simple, a US visa, which I already have. So that makes things simple.
We are from a poor family.
Now, you can either go through an agent or you can apply yourself. Doing it yourself is a bit cumbersome. You have to follow up and all. It's a lot cheaper. It costs you around rupees 1,000. Via an agent, it costs almost rupees 3,000, and the whole process takes around 3 to 5 days. So once you go to the agent or once you apply online as well, you pay the fees and then you submit your documents. Once you do that, you have to actually go to the RTO. So they're going to give you a date to go to the RTO. Depending on where you're staying, there's a different date for the RTO to entertain all these activities. You go to the RTO, you wait for some time, and then finally your number comes. You go and meet the officer on duty that day. That officer is not going to do anything. He's just going to verify your face with the face on the passport, and then he's just going to sign. He probably will also ask you, where are you going, why are you going, and why you want to drive a car. To which you want to say, that's none of your business. But then you have to be courteous because obviously you need that IDP, don't you? The dust which flies every time a car passes by. I need to go for a dry clean myself. Anyways, so once all this process is done, you will get your IDP in a matter of few days. You have to actually take your passport. So basically, when you apply, you have to show your passport to the agent, or even when you're applying online yourself, you have to put a scan of your passport as well as the visa. And once the application is done, once you do the physical verification, then your driving license or the international driving permit comes in around 3 to 4 days. So this is actually the process. It's very simple. This is actually valid for only 1 year. So that's not much. And this whole system is actually a load of bullshit. Basically, IDP is nothing but a translation of your license into multiple languages. So if you're going to countries like the UK, which have English as their first language, you don't need an IDP. Even in the US, in certain places, you don't actually have to have an IDP. However, I would definitely tell you to get one, because you're making such a long trip, spending so much money, and at the end of the day, the rental company is like, I'm sorry, you don't have an IDP, we can't give you a car. That could be a bit of an issue.
Heartbreaking, yes.
Which actually reminds me of an issue which I faced when I had gone to the US, because my brother told me you don't need an IDP, I got a car. So I also went in full flow like that. I went to Tesla. Tesla is like, I'm sorry, we cannot give you the car to drive unless and until you have an IDP. Now I can't go back to India and get an IDP. So I succumbed to one of the frauds, which was basically going online and applying for the driving permit through a very shady website, which actually printed a card and sent it to me. So for starters, you need to understand a valid international driving permit is the one which is actually a booklet which has multiple language translations in it, and it's slightly bigger than your passport. It's white colored, the one in India, which is valid everywhere. And there are a lot of these scams happening wherein they will make it for 5 years as well, and that is not really valid, but some people just accept it because it's a formality. This rule should be abolished of getting an IDP because it's just so stupid. So basically, you reach foreign country, like right now we are in Dubai, and at the airport itself you can get a car for rent. So something like the Elantra will cost you around rupees 6,000 per day. Something like the Verna, rather the Accent, which we have taken right now, will cost you roughly around 4,000 a day. And this could be cheaper when you're not going in peak season. Right now it's obviously peak season because November is winter and weather is bearable here in Dubai. That's the reason why it is costly. So here we're going to turn on the car. And first things first, always make sure to carry something like this, a charger, because your battery is going to drain as you're going to have navigation on all the freaking time like I have right now. Yeah, super important to have navigation. So how do you actually take the car on rent? So basically you can rent it anywhere. There are a lot of places to get a car on rent, but airport is my preferred spot. Obviously I always keep the handbrake up. So airport is always the preferred spot for me, because then it's much more convenient, because whenever you go to any place, you're going to come to the same airport. You're going to fly in from there, you're going to fly out from there. So you might as well take the car from the airport, because it's so much more convenient. Otherwise you have to pay taxi or travel by public transport to actually reach your destination or to reach a rental car agency, and then you have a lot of luggage as well, so it's very cumbersome. Best thing, take it at the airport. And there are obviously cars available at the airport. They are a tad bit more expensive, because there's a 50 dirham airport charge in Dubai for cars which are taken from the airport, for the parking charge of these cars, which turns out to be around rupees 1200 or something of that sort, which is fine, because you would spend a lot more on taxi. Since labor cost is very expensive in developed countries, it doesn't make sense. Now you should not always take the car at the airport, because in certain places, and to be specific like the UK and all, it's very expensive at the airport. Plus you have to drive through London, which itself has a lot of traffic, and then you might get into a lane which has congestion charge, which becomes even worse for you. Then you have to end up paying around 1500 rupees per day for congestion charge. And then it just makes sense to take public transport, go to a smaller city in the UK like say Birmingham or Coventry, and taking a car on rent there, because it's cheaper, easier, and more cars are also available. So this is a very easy process, because you go, you say I want this particular car. A lot of options are available, from the Kia Picanto, which is the cheapest car available for around 2,500 rupees per day, to even Ferraris and all, which are not available at the airport. Though at the airport you will get maybe a 7-seater SUV, because a lot of people have family coming in. Mostly practical cars are available at the airport. You will never ever find something exquisite like a Ferrari. You can get Ferrari outside at other rental car agencies, and the cost of a Ferrari is a mind-blowing rupees 40-50,000 a day, which isn't much when you compare it to the cost of the same in India as such. So now I'm going to give you some driving tips. Before that, let me tell you that you need to get used to driving left hand. It's a little difficult initially, because you're not used to driving left hand, and you're so used to sitting on the right side of the wheel. Here we are sitting on the wrong side of the wheel, of course. For starters, you have to be very conscious, okay? You have to be very alert. You have to always think that am I leaving enough space on the right side, because sometimes we feel that we are actually driving right hand, and when we do that now, we will kiskaw the car there and maybe hit something here, or maybe the divider as well. It happens to the best of people, so you have to be very, very, very alert of what you're doing. So that's something with time and with practice only you can master. Other thing is that when you're parking the car, you have to remember that parking fines happen if you do not park it in the proper place, if you don't pay for parking. Nobody's going to come and give you a slip for parking. You have to actually go and pay it yourself. So keep coins handy, which is very imperative. Now at the airport, when you take the car, they're actually going to swipe your card and block some money as security deposit. Now that entirely depends on where. I mean, what is the duration of the car you're taking the rent for. So supposing if you're taking the car on rent for a longer duration, approximately say 10-15 days, then the deposit will be more. So I have paid 1000 dirham deposit for this car, which is around 12,500 rupees, because obviously I'm taking it for just 3 days. But if you take it for a longer duration, the deposit will be higher. Now this you can't pay in cash. This has to be paid by credit card. You know why? Because that deposit is not for fun or for saving the car from being robbed, because what is 12,000 rupees compared to the cost of this car, which is like almost 8-9 lakh rupees here. It's actually for speeding fines and for violations. So in case you get a speeding fine, they will deduct it from your deposit, then only return back the rest of the money. And obviously all these fines, they don't come immediately. Okay, it takes some time for these fines to reflect in the system. That's the reason they block your card and they swipe that, and then they return that money back, obviously, if you have no fines and all that stuff. We'll come to fines in a bit, but you know what? You should always, trust me, you should always take it easy when you're driving in a new country, because the rules and regulations are very different. Firstly, use the indicators as much as possible. Always stop at intersections. Never ever break a signal, because breaking a signal here means your car is impounded. So that's the most dangerous thing. So you just cannot afford to do that. So basically, the regular rules which we don't follow in India, we basically have to follow all of them here in a city like Dubai, because developed country, you have to be very alert as well. Then the other thing is that they also use a security deposit for the toll charges. So you're going to cross a lot of toll booths, and the cost of the same is auto deducted with a Salik which is mounted here, which is basically the toll fastag here. Okay, and it's around 5 AED per trip. Meanwhile, for private cars, it's 4 AED per trip, and it's valid from 8 to 8. So basically, after 8 o'clock, or I think after 10 o'clock, they shut it. So it's free at non-peak hours, and it's chargeable at peak hours. So that's a big relief. So also plan your journey accordingly, that you're not driving around in peak hours across toll booths, because then toll charges can be quite a bit, but then it's not much, considering that cost of fuel is very, very, very cheap here. Although when you're returning the car, they're able to see how many toll charges are there, and that time itself you can pay it off, so they don't deduct it from the security deposit either. So now you understand the importance of a credit card. And obviously credit cards are a scam, so be careful of it. We're not here promoting credit cards, of course. Beyond credit cards, once you get your the car, okay, they give you a paper. In that paper, now there's some details written. They'll also send you a digital copy. They'll send you a digital receipt as well. That will tell you various aspects about where the damage is there on the car. I prefer to always take a slightly older car, but rental agencies usually keep cars in very good condition. Why? Because they keep changing the car as soon as possible so that they don't have to maintain it much. And if they don't have to maintain it, or if the car is not having any issues, and well, obviously new cars will not have issues, then there is a bit... Okay, there's a Porsche standing here. There's a Porsche standing here. There's a relief for them, because then the car will not be at the service center, which means it will be on rent more times and earn them more money. So usually they change the cars every year. So you can get a brand new car as well with say 1000 kilometers on the odo, and that is really freaking me out. You know why? Because I'm like, with a car which is already slightly old, having some scratches here and there, I don't have to be so careful also. With a brand new car now, even if a slight scratch happens now, they will notice it. So that's the reason why I take slightly older cars. Okay, this category of car, like the one I'm driving right now, the Accent, you also get the Sunny and the Yaris, and all of them come in the same category, which is around rupees 4,000 a day. Come in non-peak hours, or rather non-peak months, this will become much cheaper, and the longer you rent, the cheaper it gets. So that's also a very cool thing actually. So if you can bear the heat, then you should definitely come at non-peak season. And renting a car is easy in most of the places. Like even in Thailand, for example, you can rent cars very easily. Now this brings me to another big hassle of driving in a country, or rather a city like Dubai. Why I keep saying country? Faisal, UAE is country. The thing is, the road network is very confusing. Okay, it's very confusing. You see these solid lines, you should never cross them, and you are going to end up crossing them at times. It's completely fine. Don't panic. Just learn from your mistakes. Don't demotivate yourself. Trust me on this. With time you will get better, no matter how good you are as a driver in India. When you come to a new country, it will take some time for you to get used to it. Experience is the most important thing in the world. Okay, now you see, this is a very confusing road.
It's too confusing.
I don't even know where do I have to go, because you get so confused, you end up taking the wrong turn. If in Dubai you have to reach somewhere after half an hour, you should leave at least 50 minutes before, because if you take a wrong turn now, you are going to end up turning around and wasting a lot of time as well. At least, okay, come on car, give me some punch. Okay, you're going to end up wasting another 10-15 minutes in the wrong turn. It's happened with me at times where I've like, oh, I have to reach a place in 30 minutes, let me leave at 35 minutes, and it's like 25 kilometers. I end up driving 45 kilometers and taking 1 hour, because I always tend to get lost. So you should never cross this yellow line, which I ended up doing right now.
That's the problem.
Because I did not see the road ahead, the car was ahead. So you have to be a little careful about this. So they're not going to fine you for all this.
They do.
They are only going to fine you for overspeeding, and no one's going to stop you and be like, okay, paper dekha. No one's going to ask you that, unless and until you get involved in a crash or something happens. Nobody cares about your papers, nobody cares about the validity of your car and all that stuff. That's something which is very well sorted, so nobody's going to trouble you unnecessarily. Now here we have to actually take a right. There's this delivery bike which is in the way, so you have to be a little careful about these bikers, because there are a lot of these delivery bikes, which basically is something like Swiggy and Zomato. Here we have Deliveroo and Talabat and Noon and all that.
Write this down.
So I think it's quite easy to drive a car here, because traffic situation is considerably less. Peak hours between 5 to 8 o'clock in the evening, especially Sheikh Zayed Road in Dubai, super duper traffic infused that you get stuck there. But otherwise, traffic is not a problem. In fact, here traffic scenario and road network is so good. Like there are like 6 lanes at times. So you end up, and I kid you not, you end up driving at an average speed of more than 100 kilometers per hour. So here we're going to come in the first lane. See, there are actually 2 lanes which are going right. Now the thing is, what about speeding? Speeding, fine, happens. So in Dubai, basically what happens is that you can drive 20 kilometers per hour above the speed limit. They give you that leeway, and mostly speed limit is around 100. Some places 110 on Emirates Road, and some places it is, look, he also crossed the white line. So people do it, and you should never overtake from the wrong side, which is technically right side here. But people do it in Dubai because they are very bindas here. But technically, like places like Europe, places like UK, you should never overtake from the right side, wrong side, sorry. So in the UK, always overtake from the right. In Europe, always overtake from the left. In Europe, you have to overtake from the left, and indicators are very important. So if nobody's giving an indicator, you can go full flow, full speed ahead of them. But you know what? In case you take a turn without indicator, you can be in trouble, because no one's going to anticipate you. So indicators are very important. People drive a lot of speed, so don't follow them, because people break the speed limit here also. So I think locals do not get any fine at all, or probably the fine is like pocket change for them. So basically there's a camera there. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's that camera, and that camera will click and flash if you are driving 20 kilometers per hour above the limit. So right now I think 100 is the limit, so we can comfortably go 120 kilometers per hour. I do 121, and if I get flashed, well, the fine is a whopping 600 AED, which is around 12,600 rupees, which is considerable amount of fine. But in Abu Dhabi, they don't give that leeway, but the fine is lower at 190 dirhams, which is approximately rupees 4,000. And the fine, this is the basic fine if you're doing 10 kilometers, up to 10 kilometers per hour above the speed limit. If you go beyond that, the fine also increases dramatically. Okay, so you have to be a little careful about that, about the fine bit, because speeding fine is something which is very serious in these places. But if you want to have some fun, there are places where I think they've intentionally made those places without any cameras. Bindas, go there, speed, nobody cares. Even cops are like flying there, having fun and driving like crazy. So you can obviously find such places in almost every country, whether it's the UAE, whether it's UK. You will always find such a place. Trust me on this. What is the best car to rent? I honestly feel the cheaper the car, the better it is to rent, because firstly, fuel efficiency is very good. So this one is returning roughly around 13-14 kilometers per liter. I was actually aiming for a Kia Picanto to save even more money, but unfortunately that wasn't available. But this is the category of car which suffices, honestly, for me, because I feel that if you're taking a car on rent, what it matters to you to get from point A to point B. And once I had taken a Elantra, because I wanted to make a review of that, I was really tempted to actually take the Alfa Romeo Giulietta on rent, which was coming out to be a lot more expensive, roughly 6,000 rupees per day, considering the size of the car and all. Didn't seem too expensive as such, but I thought it doesn't make sense, because half the day the car was parked on. It's so hot in the day that you don't want to drive, and this is winter season also. In the winter season also, you're like, nahi, I don't want to drive, it's just too hot for me. Enjoyed this video? Here are some bonus tips. The problem arises here is the roads, they just curve. There's one bridge and another bridge, there's another bridge, and all the bridges are one on top of another, that you get confused that where should I go, what should I do, and you end up taking the wrong turn.
Welcome to Dubai.
If you take the wrong turn, don't panic. Just take the next turn possible to come back to your right route. And obviously the maps will, the maps will reroute you immediately. Don't think that you will stop or take a reverse or drive in the wrong direction. That is absolutely jailable offense here. So 110 it says, which means 130 kilometers per hour is my comfort zone right now. Yeah, there. Thankfully, it has this speed alarm, because this car actually made in India. So at times I'm driving and all of a sudden I exceed 120 kilometers per hour, and I'm like, oh no, when did that happen? So it happens. So cruise control is the best feature to use here, and then you can endlessly gobble up the miles. And there is a lot of traffic here. Like, a lot of people drive all the time. So I'm just going to sum everything up. It is very easy to drive abroad. Just don't drive aggressively, don't cut anyone across, and don't follow locals in speeding. Follow the speed limit. Make sure where you're parking there is proper parking. Pay for the parking there immediately. Don't park in wrong spots. Make sure all your papers are there intact with you. Whenever you're going anywhere, always have your local driving license as well as the international driving permit. And then look left and see the beautiful Lamborghini Urus just pass by. There are so many of them. You won't believe it. When I was in a Bugatti Veyron recently, people from the Urus and from Ferraris and all, they were actually jutting out and clicking pictures. That's the swag you have when you come to Dubai, of course. Now, another very important thing I need to tell you is, when you're renting a car now, be very careful of the timing. So basically the rent is, here's the camera, hi, okay. Rent happens 24 hours. So today if I rent the car at 3 o'clock, within 24 hours I have to return it if I'm taking a one-day rent. And they give you a grace period of 1 hour. That's what they say. But the system actually takes up to 2 hours of grace period. So within 26 hours you should return the car. Depending on the number of days, if you're renting it for 2 days, return it between 50, like, take it easy, before 50 hours. And then if you're renting it for 3 days, return it before 74 hours and all that. Manage everything accordingly with your flight, that when you rent the car, okay, because you're going to rent it from the airport as soon as you land, your return should be at a time wherein you can take your flight back immediately and you don't have to wait. Otherwise they're going to charge you 1 day extra. So if you don't return in that 2 hour period, you are going to end up paying another day's rental for the car, which is quite a bit, honestly. So that's something you have to be careful about. Honestly, you should prefer to fly around 3 o'clock back, because most of these Airbnbs and hotels and all will make you want to check out by 11 or 12 o'clock. Some will give you late checkout, some will not. So there's the thar. So what you have to do is, best is to take a car around the afternoon time itself and go have some fun, because most of the cars are like easy, fun, nice to drive, and then road conditions are also fantastic. So don't ever stress or worry about, oh my god, how do I drive abroad? Is it going to be tough? It's not tough. You're going to make mistakes, trust me on it. Don't be harsh on yourself. Everyone makes mistakes. I made so many mistakes when I was driving abroad. So those mistakes are harmless as long as you don't do something really drastically bad, like crashing a car and all that stuff. You are safe, chill, don't panic at all. Be relaxed, and there, go have some fun. So guys, I hope this video helps in understanding how to get an international driving license and how you can actually go and drive across the globe, and also how to rent a car. And if this video made any sense to you, if it added any value to you, make sure to give this video a like, leave a comment as well, and let me know if you want me to cover other such topics about what to do when you're going abroad in terms of renting a house or an Airbnb or getting a car or eating food or whatever. I'll be glad to help you. If you like, I mean, बोल तो चुका हूँ. Bye bye.